A cart that once felt ordinary now feels like a financial decision, and families are walking through aisles as if every shelf is asking for permission to hurt their budget. This video breaks down why groceries now feel like the new luxury in America, why people are angry, what the data actually says, and how to spot the pricing tricks before they quietly drain your wallet. By the end, the receipt will look less random, and the business behind each aisle will make more sense. The shock is not just emotion. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that food prices were still rising in May 2026, with groceries up over the year, even after some monthly cooling. That is why people can hear inflation is easing and still feel robbed at checkout. The gap between the headline and the receipt is the whole story. A tiny monthly increase sounds calm on television, but it lands on top of years of earlier increases. When prices climb, pause, and climb again, the family budget does not reset. It just gets heavier. Food at home rose slower in May than in April, but that does not mean groceries became cheap. It means the pain grew more slowly for 1 month. For shoppers already stretched thin, slower pain is not relief. It is still pain with a softer voice. The Food at Home Index, tracked by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, was above 320 in May 2026, using the early 1980s as the baseline. That one line says something simple. Today's grocery shelf is carrying decades of price pressure. Now here is where the anger begins. Groceries are not optional. You can delay a vacation, skip a phone upgrade, ignore a clothing sale, or drive the old car longer. But you cannot unsubscribe from eating. That gives food inflation a special kind of power. When groceries get expensive, people do not just spend more, they trade down. Steak becomes chicken, chicken becomes beans, fresh berries become canned fruit. Name brand cereal becomes whatever is on sale. The meal still appears on the table, but the choice inside it shrinks. That is why groceries feel like a luxury now. Luxury is not only a designer bag or a watch behind glass. Luxury is anything that makes ordinary people stop, hesitate, and ask whether they can afford what used to be normal. The controversy is this. America produces enormous amounts of food, wastes enormous amounts of food, and still leaves millions of households anxious about meals. The issue is not only supply, it is price, income, distance, time, power, and the quiet design of the modern food business. USDA food security data showed that in 2024, 13.7% of U.S. households were food insecure at least sometime during the year. That means millions of families were not simply annoyed by high prices. They were making real trade-offs around food. The same USDA data showed that very low food security affected 5.4% of households. In plain words, some households had disrupted eating patterns because money or resources ran short. That is not a lifestyle choice. That is a warning light. Food insecurity does not always look like an empty fridge. Sometimes it looks like stretching rice for 3 days. Sometimes it looks like parents saying they are not hungry. Sometimes it looks like buying filling food instead of nourishing food because the budget decides first. People often say, just cook at home. That advice sounds practical, and sometimes it is. But cooking at home still requires money, transportation, storage, time, energy, safe housing, working appliances, and a nearby store that sells real ingredients at a fair price. The cheapest food is not always cheap once life is added. A person working 2 jobs may not have time to soak beans, chop vegetables, compare unit prices, and cook from scratch every night. Time poverty turns convenience into a tax on exhaustion. That is one hidden reason groceries feel luxurious. The affordable version of healthy eating often assumes a stable life. It assumes a kitchen, a car, a predictable schedule, and enough mental space to plan. Many households are missing one or more of those pieces. USDA data on food spending shows the pressure is not evenly shared. In 2024, households in the lowest income group spent about 1/3 of before-tax income on food. The highest income group spent a much smaller share. That single contrast explains why grocery inflation feels different by class. A richer household can complain and absorb the bill. A poorer household has to rearrange the month. The same price increase can be an annoyance for one family and a crisis for another. This is why averages can mislead. America can spend a historically modest share of total income on food and still have many families drowning. The national average hides the household that has rent due, a sick child, and $40 left for the week. Food is also emotional. It is tied to dignity. People do not want to be told they are failing because eggs cost more, fruit costs more, or meat feels out of reach. They want to feel that work still buys the basics. That is the breaking point. People are not just mad at the price of grapes or coffee. They are mad because the bargain feels broken. Work hard, shop carefully, avoid waste, cook at home, and somehow the receipt still looks disrespectful. Look at fruits and vegetables. The May 2026 inflation report showed that this category rose strongly over the year. That matters because fresh produce is exactly what families are told to buy when they want to eat better. When the healthier aisle feels expensive, people notice the hypocrisy. Society says eat fresh, eat clean, avoid junk, protect your health. Then the register says the cheaper path is often shelf-stable, salty, sweet, and heavily processed. This is not about blaming shoppers. A person who buys instant noodles, frozen pizza, or discount snacks is often solving an urgent math problem. Hunger does not wait for a perfect nutrition lecture. Coffee and tea also showed pressure in the data. That sounds small until you remember how many people use coffee as a daily ritual, a work fuel, or the one small comfort they can still afford. When even comfort gets repriced, frustration grows. Eggs became the symbol of grocery shock for a reason. Disease outbreaks, supply disruption, demand, and retail pricing all collided, and the humble egg suddenly felt like a market lesson. A breakfast staple turned into a conversation about volatility. Meat is another flashpoint. Families use it to judge the bill because it carries weight in the cart and on the plate. When ground beef, chicken, or lunch meat feels expensive, people immediately feel their dinner plans narrowing. Shrinkflation makes the anger sharper. The shelf tag may not jump as much as expected, but the package gets lighter, the bag gets airier, the box gets slimmer, or the servings become smaller. The price stays polite while the value disappears. Shrinkflation works because people remember the price more than the weight. A familiar package creates trust. You grab it quickly. You do not always stop to check ounces, sheets, slices, or servings. That is exactly why the trick can hide in plain sight. Then comes skimpflation. The package looks the same, but the product feels weaker. Less filling, thinner cuts, smaller pieces, cheaper ingredients, more water, more filler, less of what made it good. The receipt is not the only thing changing. Another quiet move is the sale that is not really a sale. A store raises a regular price, then offers a loyalty discount that makes shoppers feel like they won something. The customer celebrates getting back part of what was taken away. Loyalty programs are sold as savings tools, and they can help. But they also train shoppers to accept two prices: the price for people inside the data system and the punishment price for everyone else. Food begins to feel like a membership club. The digital coupon adds another layer. A paper coupon was simple: clip it and use it. Digital coupons require an app, an account, a phone, internet access, patience, and attention. The person with less time can end up paying more. That is a quiet inequality. The lowest price is often available only to the shopper with the most organization. The stressed worker, the older shopper, the person with limited internet, or the parent rushing with children may miss the deal entirely. Unit pricing is supposed to help, but even that can be confusing. One tag lists price per ounce, another lists price per pound, another uses count. The shopper is asked to become a calculator in the middle of a crowded aisle. This is why the grocery store now feels like a test. You are not just buying food. You are scanning labels, comparing sizes, checking apps, chasing rewards, watching expiration dates, avoiding impulse displays, and trying not to be fooled. The store layout matters too. Milk, eggs, and bread often sit deep inside the building, so shoppers pass many temptations before reaching essentials. This is not random. Retail space is designed to make the trip longer and the basket bigger. End caps look like bargains, but they are often paid placement or promotion space. Many shoppers assume the display means best value. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is just the loudest product in the aisle wearing a discount costume. The checkout lane is another pressure point. Candy, drinks, snacks, and small items sit where people wait. It catches tired adults and impatient children. A few extra dollars can slip into the basket right when the shopper is ready to leave. Delivery changes the math again. The shelf price may be only the beginning. Fees, service charges, delivery charges, tips, and higher item prices can turn a modest grocery order into a premium convenience product. For people without cars, delivery may not be a luxury. It may be the only workable option. That is the uncomfortable truth. The people who most need affordable food can end up paying extra simply because transportation is missing. Pickup orders can help families control impulse buys. But even pickup can change behavior. Substitutions, unavailable items, minimum order rules, and app nudges can shape the basket before a person ever enters a store. Food deserts are not only about distance, they are about choice. A neighborhood may have places to buy calories, but not many places to buy affordable fresh food. A shelf of chips and soda is not the same as a real grocery aisle. Dollar stores change the food map in many communities. They offer convenience and low-ticket items, but they may not carry the same range of fresh meat, produce, and pantry staples as a full supermarket. cheap access can still be limited access. Warehouse clubs can lower unit costs, but they require membership fees, storage space, transportation, and enough cash to buy in bulk. For families living paycheck to paycheck, the best unit price can still be out of reach. This is the bulk buying paradox. The richer shopper can afford the giant pack and save over time. The poorer shopper buys the small pack because that is all the cash allows, then pays more per ounce again and again. Private label products are now a survival strategy for many households. Store brands can be good, and they often cost less. But the shift also reveals something deeper. Shoppers are not choosing cheaper products because they want less. They are being pushed. Brand loyalty weakens when money gets tight. People who once bought the same cereal, sauce, detergent, or snack every week start testing cheaper versions. The grocery aisle becomes a loyalty graveyard because the receipt wins. Food companies know this. They fight for shelf space, package shape, flavor claims, and emotional memory. A childhood snack is not just food, it is nostalgia. That nostalgia becomes powerful when shoppers are tired and looking for comfort. Premiumization is one reason the title of this video hits. Ordinary foods are being dressed up with words like artisan, craft, organic, grass-fed, cold-pressed, ancient grain, small batch, and clean. Some labels are meaningful, some are marketing fog. The premium shelf makes the regular shelf feel worse. You see the beautiful berries, the fancy water, the pasture-raised eggs, the imported cheese, and the glossy packaging. Then you look at your budget and feel excluded inside a grocery store. Let us be fair. Farmers are not sitting on easy money while consumers suffer. Many farmers face high costs for fuel, fertilizer, labor, land, equipment, insurance, and debt. The price on the shelf is not the same as the money reaching the farm. That is part of the frustration. The shopper pays more, the farmer may still struggle, and the middle of the system often remains hard to see. Processing, transportation, retail contracts, packaging, and margins all sit between field and fork. Energy prices matter because food moves. Tractors need fuel. Trucks need fuel. Refrigeration needs power. Packaging uses energy. Stores use electricity. When energy costs rise, grocery prices can feel it through several doors at once. Weather matters too. Droughts, floods, heat waves, storms, and crop disease can hit supply. A bad season does not stay on the farm. It can show up later as smaller harvests, higher wholesale prices, and fewer promotions at retail. Global trade matters. Bananas, coffee, cocoa, seafood, spices, and many fruits do not simply appear from nowhere. They depend on ports, ships, labor, weather abroad, currency movements, and trade rules. The local receipt can carry global trouble. Labor matters. Food is picked, processed, packed, driven, stocked, cooked, and delivered by people. When labor costs rise, prices can rise. But when workers are underpaid, the food system is cheaper only because someone else is absorbing the pain. That is the uncomfortable balance. Consumers want cheaper groceries. Workers want living wages. Farmers want survival. Businesses want profit. Politicians want simple blame. The grocery bill sits at the intersection of all those pressures. The Federal Trade Commission's Grocery Supply Chain Report added a sharper edge. It said large market participants were better positioned during pandemic disruptions, while smaller firms often struggled more to get products. That gave big players an advantage. The same report said some food and beverage retailer profits remained elevated after the worst supply shocks. That does not prove every price increase was unfair, but it challenges the easy excuse that all higher prices came only from higher costs. This is where the controversy belongs. It is too simple to say corporations caused every grocery increase. It is also too simple to say corporations had no role. The truth is messier, and that mess is exactly where consumers lose trust. When costs rise, businesses often raise prices quickly. When costs fall, prices can come down slowly or not at all. Economists call this kind of behavior sticky pricing. Shoppers call it something else. Why is my bill still high? Once a company learns customers will tolerate a higher price, the old price may never return. That is the ratchet effect people feel. A crisis pushes prices up. The crisis cools. The new price becomes normal. Promotions also changed. During shortages, some manufacturers spent less on discounts because there was no need to push products that were already hard to find. Fewer promotions meant shoppers lost one of the old ways they kept bills manageable. Before the price shocks, many families survived on sale cycles. Buy pasta when it drops. Stock up on chicken when it is marked down. Freeze bread. Use coupons. Rotate meals. When promotions weaken, the planning system breaks. Inventory rules matter too. Large retailers can pressure suppliers with strict delivery demands and penalties. Smaller stores may not have the same leverage. That can affect who gets product first, who stays stocked, and who keeps customers. Consumers rarely see those negotiations. They just see an empty shelf at one store, a full shelf at another, and a price that feels higher than it should. The power struggle is hidden behind the barcode. Now add rent, insurance, utilities, childcare, and debt. Groceries are not rising in a vacuum. A family may be able to handle one pressure. But when every fixed cost rises, food becomes the flexible category, even though it is essential. That is why people cut groceries first. Rent is due. The car payment is fixed. Insurance is fixed. The electric bill must be paid. Food becomes the place where families try to squeeze, substitute, skip, and stretch. The luxury feeling comes from losing freedom. A normal shopping trip used to include small yeses. Yes to grapes. Yes to juice. Yes to a treat for the kids. Yes to the better coffee. Now the trip becomes a sequence of no. Children feel it too. They may not understand inflation, but they understand when favorite snacks vanish, when cereal changes, when eating out stops, or when a parent says not this week in a voice that sounds tired. Older Americans on fixed incomes feel it differently. A monthly check does not bend easily. When food, medicine, utilities, and rent all compete, the grocery aisle becomes a place of quiet arithmetic. College students feel it. Young workers feel it. New parents feel it. People with decent jobs feel it. That is why this topic cuts across politics. Everyone eats, and almost everyone knows the receipt got louder. The phrase "people are fed up" works because the anger is literal. People are fed up with paying more. Fed up with smaller packages. Fed up with lectures. Fed up with being told the economy is fine while their cart says otherwise. Here is another uncomfortable point. Inflation reports measure broad averages, not your personal basket. If your household buys a lot of fruit, eggs, coffee, baby formula, or meat, your inflation can feel much higher than the national line. Personal inflation is real. A retired couple, a family with teenagers, a vegan household, a diabetic shopper, and a single worker do not buy the same cart. One national number cannot capture every kitchen. Teenagers can turn a grocery budget into a battlefield. Growing kids eat constantly. The parent is not imagining it. A household with teenagers can feel grocery inflation faster because the cart is already large before prices rise. Special diets add another layer. Gluten-free, low-sodium, allergy-safe, diabetic-friendly, dairy-free, or high-protein foods can cost more. For these families, cheaper substitution is not always safe or simple. Baby formula is its own pressure point. Parents cannot just switch casually when a baby tolerates one product. Shortages and high prices in that category create panic because the need is immediate and the room for error is small. Pet food also competes with groceries. Pets are family for many households. When pet food rises, people feel it in the same shopping trip. The cart may include dinner for the household and dinner for the dog, and both cost more. Household basics blur the bill. Many people call it groceries even when the receipt includes soap, trash bags, diapers, toothpaste, medicine, and paper goods. So the grocery bill becomes the symbol for a wider affordability crisis. This matters because people compare receipts emotionally, not by economic category. They remember what a weekly trip used to cost, then they see today's total and feel something has gone wrong, even if part of the cart is not food. Retailers know shoppers are watching totals. That is why small basket offers matter. $5 off a large order, fuel points, reward cash, and limited time deals can soften the emotional blow without truly changing the cost structure. That is how grocery psychology works. The store does not need to force you. It only needs to nudge you. A display here, a coupon there, a limited offer, a bright sticker, a familiar smell, a seasonal flavor. The basket grows quietly. Smell is part of the strategy. Fresh bread, roasted chicken, coffee, and bakery cases make the store feel warm and abundant. Hunger makes impulse buying easier. Never underestimate how much a grocery trip changes when you shop hungry. Even the cart size matters. A bigger cart can make a normal amount of food look small. That empty space creates a strange pressure to fill it. The shopper feels unfinished before the list is complete. Self-checkout changed the feeling of shopping. It can be fast, but it also makes the customer scan, bag, troubleshoot, and wait for help while prices rise. People feel like they are paying more and doing more work. Some shoppers respond by becoming detectives. They photograph prices, compare stores, track receipts, use spreadsheets, join local groups, and trade tips. That behavior itself proves the point. Basic shopping now requires strategy. The middle class is learning skills that low-income shoppers have used for years. stretching meat, building meals around rice, watching unit prices, freezing leftovers, shopping multiple stores, saying no before leaving the house. That is not a failure of discipline. It is a sign of pressure moving upward. When habits of scarcity become mainstream, the economy may still look strong on paper, but the household mood changes. One reason the mood is so sour is that food has memory. People remember cheap eggs, cheap bread, cheap canned goods, and full carts. Even if some memories are imperfect, the emotional comparison is powerful. Receipts became social evidence. People post grocery hauls online and ask, "How is this much?" The photo does what an inflation chart cannot. It shows a small pile of ordinary food with a total that feels absurd. That online anger can exaggerate, but it also reveals something real. People are not simply confused. They are comparing lived experience across cities and realizing the same shock is happening in many kitchens. Still, not every viral grocery claim is accurate. Some people include alcohol, household goods, delivery fees, or restaurant spending and call it groceries. That can blur the debate. Accuracy matters because the real problem is serious enough. The strongest argument does not need fake numbers. Official data already shows food prices remain elevated, food insecurity remains widespread, and lower-income households spend a much heavier share of income on food. That is enough. Food inflation also changes politics. A voter may not study policy documents, but they know the price of milk, bread, eggs, and meat. The grocery store becomes a polling place without ballots. Leaders often want credit when inflation cools. But consumers want prices to fall, not just rise more slowly. That misunderstanding creates anger. Cooling inflation is not the same as affordable groceries. If a carton went from $3 to $5, then only rises slowly after that, the official trend may look better. The shopper still has to pay the $5 reality. That is the difference between rates and levels. Rates are about speed. Levels are about where prices landed. Most households live in levels. They do not celebrate that the car is moving slower if it already drove them off the road. That is why saying inflation is down can sound insulting. The person hearing it may think, then why is my cart still so expensive? Both statements can be true, and the tension between them fuels distrust. Another piece is wages. If pay rises but prices rise faster, people feel poorer. If pay rises just enough to keep up, people do not feel better. They feel like they are running hard to stay in place. Food also arrives before savings. A raise may come once a year. Grocery bills come every week. That timing matters. Frequent price pain shapes mood faster than occasional income gains. Credit cards now enter the grocery story. Some families use debt not for luxury, but for food. That is a dangerous signal. When dinner moves onto revolving credit, today's meal can become tomorrow's interest. Buy, now pay later. Services have even appeared around everyday purchases. That should make everyone pause. Financing a television is one thing. Splitting the cost of groceries into payments shows how thin the margin has become. Food banks feel the pressure from both sides. More people seek help when prices rise, while donated food and operating costs face pressure too. The emergency food system becomes a shock absorber for a market that many households cannot handle. Charity can help, but charity cannot be the whole food policy of a wealthy country. A food pantry line may solve tonight. It does not answer why working households need emergency help in the first place. School meals matter because they reduce pressure on families. When children can reliably eat at school, the household grocery budget stretches. When school is out, closed, or limited, the home kitchen has to absorb more meals. Summer can expose hidden hunger. During the school year, breakfast and lunch programs may quietly support millions of children. When that support disappears, families must replace those meals during the same months when utility bills may rise. Nutrition assistance matters for the same reason. Benefits are not abstract. They become bread, milk, beans, chicken, vegetables, cereal, and baby food. When benefits fall short of prices, families still hit the checkout wall. Critics argue that assistance can affect incentives or government spending. Supporters argue that hunger is more costly than food aid. The real question is uncomfortable. What should a country guarantee when the need is as basic as eating? There is also a dignity question. People should not have to perform suffering to deserve food. The grocery crisis is already humiliating enough. Making people prove hunger again and again adds paperwork to pain. Now let us talk about the phrase new luxury. Luxury brands sell scarcity, status, and desire. Groceries now borrow some of that feeling by accident. Fresh, healthy, convenient, and high-quality food increasingly signals income. A full fridge has become a status symbol in disguise, not a flashy one. A quiet one. Fresh fruit, good meat, real ingredients, snacks for the kids, and enough backup food for the week. That is security you can see. The pantry tells a story too. A stocked pantry means fewer emergency trips, fewer delivery fees, and less panic. But stocking up requires cash upfront. Preparedness is cheaper over time, yet expensive at the beginning. That is the poverty penalty again. Running out costs money. Small packages cost more. Last-minute trips cost more. Convenience stores cost more. Delivery costs more. Overdrafts cost more. Being short on cash makes food more expensive. People love to say budgeting fixes everything. Budgeting helps, but it cannot turn $10 into $20. At some point, the problem is not planning, it is arithmetic. The same goes for blaming waste. Yes, households waste food. Yes, meal planning helps. But waste advice can become cruel when aimed at families already measuring portions, saving leftovers, and choosing cheaper meals. The better question is not whether individuals can do better. Many can. The better question is why the system requires so much effort just to buy ordinary food without fear. Some practical moves still matter. Compare unit prices when they are consistent. Build meals around cheaper proteins. Use frozen vegetables. Watch weekly sales. Avoid shopping hungry. Check the receipt before leaving. Small defenses add up, but do not confuse coping with justice. A coupon is not a cure for a broken food budget. A cheaper recipe is not a substitute for fair wages, fair competition, resilient supply chains, and honest pricing. Frozen food deserves more respect. Frozen vegetables and fruit can be nutritious, last longer, and reduce waste. The fresh aisle is not the only path to a decent meal, especially when fresh prices spike. Canned food also matters. Beans, tomatoes, tuna, vegetables, and soups can stretch a budget. The trick is watching sodium, unit price, and whether the can is actually cheaper than dry or frozen alternatives. Store brands are not shame. They are a rational response to the market. The shame belongs to any economy where a careful shopper feels embarrassed for choosing what keeps the household afloat. Another defense is the no list. Before entering the store, decide what you will not buy unless the price is right. That reduces emotional decisions. Groceries are designed to create yes. A no list protects the budget. Meal repetition is also powerful. People chase variety because food media sells constant novelty. But repeating simple meals can reduce waste, simplify shopping, and make prices easier to track. Community sharing can help too. Neighbors swapping bulk items, splitting warehouse purchases, sharing garden produce, or trading sale alerts can lower costs. The old village logic still works in a high-price economy. Gardening helps some households, but it is not a universal fix. Seeds, soil, tools, water, space, sunlight, time, and local rules all matter. A tomato plant is not a national food policy. Cooking skills matter, but they are not magic. A skilled cook can stretch ingredients, but cannot erase high rent, low wages, medical bills, transportation costs, and a store that charges too much for basics. The deeper solution needs competition. When shoppers have more real choices, stores have to fight harder. When a town has only one weak option, the customer has less power and the price has less discipline. Local markets, cooperatives, and independent grocers can help, but they also face tough costs. Rent, labor, refrigeration, insurance, and supplier terms can crush small stores. Wanting local options is easier than keeping them alive. Policy can shape the field. Antitrust enforcement, support for small grocers, nutrition programs, school meals, transportation access, and supply chain resilience all affect what families pay and what choices they have. Transparency matters too. Shoppers deserve clearer unit pricing, honest package sizes, simple digital discounts, and fewer games around basic staples. Complexity should not be a profit center when the product is food. Companies will say they must cover costs. Often they do, but consumers have the right to ask where the money goes. If costs fall and prices remain high, people will question whether inflation became a business model. That question is not anti-business. It is pro-accountability. Food companies can earn profit, workers can earn wages, farmers can survive, and consumers can still demand fair treatment. Those ideas do not cancel each other. The anger is also cultural. For decades, America treated abundance as part of its identity. Huge stores, full shelves, endless choice, big portions, low prices. When that abundance feels conditional, the national story cracks. People are not asking for luxury. They are asking for ordinary. A bag of apples, a dozen eggs, a pound of meat, a box of cereal, milk, rice, coffee, snacks for children. Food for the week without panic. That is why the title works. Groceries feel like the new luxury because the basics now demand luxury-level attention. You compare, calculate, compromise, and still leave wondering what happened. The worst part is the mental load. The bill follows people home. They think about what they forgot, what they overpaid for, what they should return, what meal can be stretched, and whether payday arrives before the pantry empties. That mental load is invisible in inflation charts. A chart can show a percentage. It cannot show the parent standing in an aisle deciding whether fruit or gas matters more this week. It cannot show the elderly shopper putting meat back. It cannot show the cashier hearing the total and watching someone freeze. It cannot show the child asking for a snack and the parent pretending not to hear. This is why tone matters. Telling people to stop complaining misses the human reality. Groceries are where economics becomes personal. The debate is not happening in a textbook. It is happening at dinner. The next time someone says prices are normal now, ask normal for whom? Normal for a household with savings is not normal for a household living week to week. The same shelf can feel different depending on the wallet. Also ask what kind of food we are talking about. Cheap calories are not the same as affordable nutrition. A country can have plenty of low-cost calories and still make healthy eating feel expensive. That distinction matters for public health. If families are pushed toward cheaper, less nourishing food, the cost may return later through diabetes, heart disease, fatigue, poor school performance, and medical bills. So the grocery crisis is not just about today's receipt. It is about tomorrow's health, children's development, worker productivity, community stability, and trust in institutions. Food is small in the basket and huge in society. Here is the cleanest way to understand it. Prices rose. Some categories stayed volatile. Lower-income families carry a heavier burden. Store tactics got more complex. Supply chains stayed fragile. Corporate power remains under scrutiny. People feel cornered. And when people feel cornered around food, anger becomes rational. Not every claim online is accurate. Not every company is evil. Not every policy answer is simple. But the frustration is real because the pressure is real. The biggest takeaway is that groceries became a luxury feeling. Not because food became fancy, but because basic choices became stressful. The luxury is not the product. The luxury is shopping without fear. The second takeaway is that official numbers and lived experience can both be true. Inflation can slow while prices remain painfully high. Averages can look manageable while millions of households struggle. The third takeaway is that the grocery bill is a mirror. It reflects wages, rent, fuel, weather, market power, health, transportation, technology, and policy. That is why one receipt can make a whole country argue. If this video made you look at your bill differently, like it, share it with someone who keeps saying it is just you, and comment with one specific item you believe became outrageously expensive in your area. Your receipt might tell the story better than any speech. Because this is not only about one expensive cart. It is about whether normal work can still buy ordinary food and whether families can plan without fear. Put your city in the comments, because location tells a story averages can miss. Do not let this stay quiet now.